Hi, welcome to Spec Hunter. Today we're talking about the brand new DJI Osmo Action 6. This camera has created a strange mix of excitement and disappointment. When DJI first teased a variable aperture, something we have never seen on an action camera before, I was genuinely excited. It felt like a fresh idea in a market that often repeats itself every year. But after watching the early reviews from China, that excitement quickly faded. The bigger sensor came with a surprising catch. The variable aperture looked more like a technical showcase than a real game changer. And overall, the Osmo Action 6 did not look like the big upgrade many people expected. But even with all of that, I still had to test it myself. After spending a few days shooting with it, my opinion became clear. The two main upgrades, the new sensor and the variable aperture, are real, but they are not as impactful in everyday use as the marketing suggests. If you're new to action cameras, the Osmo Action 6 is a strong starting point. But if you already own the Action 4 or the Action 5 Pro and are waiting for a major step forward, you may want to hold on to your money for now. That being said, there are certain situations where the Osmo Action 6 does perform better. And in this review, I want to explain exactly where those improvements matter. The biggest topic around the Osmo Action 6 is the new sensor. DJI upgraded it from a 1/1.3-inch sensor in the Action 5 to a larger 1/1.1-inch sensor in the Action 6. On paper, this sounds like a huge jump. It makes you think of better low-light performance, more detail, and improved image quality. Unfortunately, that is not the case. The new sensor is square, but we usually shoot in a 16:9 widescreen format. So when you record video, the camera only uses a thin horizontal slice of that square sensor. When you calculate the actual light gathering area used for normal horizontal video, it's almost the same size as the Action 5 sensor, and some calculations show it might even be a bit smaller. So the bigger sensor number looks impressive, but it does not provide the low light improvement people hoped for. Even though it does not help much in low light, the bigger sensor still has one real benefit. You can now record using the full square sensor and reframe your footage later as horizontal or vertical video. This matters a lot for creators who publish on multiple platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. You can shoot once and then export your video in different aspect ratios without losing detail. This is not a new idea. GoPro has had something similar with its 8:7 mode, and Insta360 has 4:3 free frame modes. But DJI's square sensor gives the highest amount of real sensor coverage for vertical video so far. For creators who need both vertical and horizontal formats, this feature is extremely useful. However, if you only upload landscape videos like I do, this flexibility doesn't change much. It adds an extra editing step because you must manually reframe everything and the files take more storage space. So it is nice to have, but not essential. This square sensor also allows you to shoot horizontal video even when the camera is mounted vertically, and it gives electronic stabilization more room to work. This finally unlocks Horizon Steady in full 4K instead of being limited to 2.7K before. So while the sensor is not a low-light upgrade, it does make the camera more flexible and more stable. Now let's talk about the feature that made everyone excited at first, the variable aperture. This is the first time an action camera has offered a variable aperture. Usually, these cameras have a fixed f2.8 aperture that never changes. The variable aperture works just like the pupil in your eye. It opens wider to let in more light when it is dark, and it closes down to reduce light when it is bright. When you hear this, three expectations come to mind: better low-light performance, potential background blur, and more control over shutter speed without relying heavily on ND filters. So let's see how these expectations compare to real use. First, yes, low light is improved. This is one of the most noticeable changes on the Osmo Action 6. At f2, the lens lets in twice as much light as the f2.8 lens on the Action 5 Pro. Even though the effective sensor area is not larger, the extra light balances things out. It does not make the camera amazing in the dark, but it performs better than previous DJI action cameras. You still get typical action camera jitter when walking at night because electronic stabilization struggles in low light. However, the wider aperture allows the camera to use higher shutter speeds, so the jitter becomes slightly less visible. One important detail you need to know is that shooting at f2 increases the minimum focus distance. That means close objects may look soft or out of focus. So while low-light performance improves, it comes with a trade-off. Even with these improvements, your phone or the Osmo Pocket 3 will still give you better night footage. But among DJI's action cameras, the Osmo Action 6 has the best low-light performance so far. I personally look forward to shooting nighttime bike rides with it because it captures more detail than the Action 5 Pro. Now let's talk about background blur. Action cameras almost never produce real background blur. The sensor is too small and the lens is too wide. So even with f2, you will not get cinematic bokeh. Everything in the background will still look sharp. What does improve is foreground blur and close focusing. When you stop down to f4, the minimum focus distance becomes 20 centimeters. This is a big improvement compared to the 35 centimeters you get on f2.8 on both the Action 5 Pro and Action 6. If you shoot POV videos and want to show your hands, your phone, or small objects close to you, this makes a noticeable difference. But the camera will not switch to f4 automatically. You must change the aperture yourself when shooting close-up shots. The variable aperture also acts like a small built-in ND filter. Changing from f2.8 to f4 reduces light by one stop. This gives you more room to control shutter speed and introduce motion blur. It helps you maintain more natural-looking movement. But if you want heavy motion blur or want to follow the 180-degree shutter rule, you still need real ND filters. The variable aperture just makes your setup a bit more flexible and may reduce how often you swap ND filters while shooting. There's also a small creative effect you can get by stopping down the aperture. You can create a starburst effect from strong light sources. It is not a big feature, but it is a fun extra option for creative shots. Besides the sensor and aperture, the Osmo Action 6 has a few other updates worth talking about. The new macro lens accessory allows you to focus as close as 11 centimeters. It sounds interesting, but it requires manual focusing, which is already hard on a tiny screen. Based on the reviews I've seen, it is difficult to use well. I was interested at first, but after seeing the price, I changed my mind. It costs almost half the price of the camera, and it might not work with future models. So it's hard to justify. The new bidirectional magnetic mount is a small but nice improvement. You can attach the camera facing either direction, which saves time. I used to flip the Action 5 mount constantly because it was often turned the wrong way. This new mount fixes that problem. It still works with older mounts too, but attaching it to old mounts feels less smooth because you lose the magnetic alignment. DJI has also changed the battery and USB door design. Now you push the latch to the side before opening it. It feels more secure and less likely to open by accident. So, how do I feel about the DJI Osmo Action 6 overall? It is an interesting upgrade. DJI changed some important things internally, but for most people, the final video quality looks very similar to the Action 5 Pro. The new sensor and the variable aperture are more about giving the camera new abilities rather than boosting image quality. This makes the buying decision simple. If you create content for multiple platforms and need to reframe your footage, the Action 6 is a valuable upgrade. If you want the best low-light performance from a DJI action camera, this one has it. And if you like having more control over exposure, the variable aperture is useful. But if you already own the Action 5 Pro and you mainly upload horizontal videos, the upgrade is not very convincing. The improvements are real, but not dramatic. And this brings up a bigger point about the action camera market. It feels like companies are releasing new models every year, but they are reaching the limits of what they can do with such a small camera body. It will be interesting to see if future cameras break away from this trend and bring fresh new ideas. Thanks for watching this review. Let me know in the comments what you think about the new DJI Osmo Action 6. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss our latest updates.